Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell, a podcast about comedy. Comedy in a nutshell. It couldn't be simpler. What does comedy mean to the people who are at its withered heart? The only way to find out is to ask them and hope they don't all lie. Well, not too much anyway. My guest on this episode is a stand-up comedian whose first solo appearance at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2011 was the smash hit phenomenon 10 Films with My Dad. And this year he's taking his 10th solo show to the Edinburgh Fringe, stand-up comedian and genuinely nice guy, Aidan Goatley.
Hello, sir.
Hello. How have you been?
I've been okay. I've been in the wilds of the north. I'm back up in Middlesbrough. Had my brief sojourn into the lovely south of Hastings and civilization and polite conversation and no one threatening me. Been lovely. And then I came back here. How you doing? You all right?
Oh, yeah. So good. Really good. I'm having such a good time getting to talk to people like your good self, which is fantastic.
Oh, you smooth-talking bastard, you.
I've really enjoyed our conversation, actually, at Hastings. It was really nice.
Well, it sounds like you've just got a hell of a life going for you now. Do you know? I love the fact that you just thought, no, I'm going to do this. I love it. You know, Why not? I raise my coffee to you, sir, and salute you. So,
cheers. Obviously,
it's not coffee. It's vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just got to try and remain professional. That's what I do. One of us has to. I mean, come on.
I was delighted to witness the work in progress at Hastings of your new show at Tenacious. This is your 10th Edinburgh show, is that right?
It is, yes. Yeah, it's my 10th show. Hence, I thought, clever title, Tenacious show. 10th show, Edinburgh. Just so glad to be going back, really. For me, growing up, always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Edinburgh was the place, you know.
Yeah.
It's the Wembley Stadium, you know. It's the place to go, and you know, there's always that great thing about when you're not a comedian, people go, "Oh, you do Edinburgh? Oh, you must be good," and then secretly, you know, no, I've got a credit card. You know, that's all it takes. Really, you know, most theatres, venues up there, like, yeah, pay us, we'll be fine. And so, really, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was absolutely glorious that day in Hastings. It went really well. One of those ones you want to pocket. Audience were really good. They were really up for it. They did a great job down there at that. Chris and Jake running Hastings Fringe. I'm not, you know, they've already said I can come back, so I'm not trying to ask it. But yeah, it's good.
They're a great team. Good organisers, and they're great blokes as well. So.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find when you've got people who care about the comedy, care about how it works, and the effort in over the time, the audience develop as well. So the audiences get to know, there's this stuff on, and it's not just like being on, you know, sometimes you get some places where they think it's like watching TV, you know, and they just have a nice chat. And, you know, it is like a chat, but it's a one-way thing, you know.
Yeah. Now that you're a stand-up comedian, way back when, before stand-up comedy became, you know, your vocation, what was comedy to you? What did it mean to you, and how did you make the change into being part of the industry?
Well, I growing up, for me, it was always comedy. Was always the thing. I loved it. I loved watching Lenny Henry when I was a kid. You know, was the top guy. You know, he was just hilarious. He did lots of kids, did Tiz Was and all these things. But the thing that really was the absolute, oh my God, took it beyond that was watching Billy Connelly's An Audience With.
Yes, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen, just phenomenal. That was the first time I'd ever seen a comedian do like a whole hour. And it was an hour and a half, I think, the original version. But just doing that full version, I was like, wow, this isn't just 5 minutes here and there and someone doing David Bellamy impersonations. And so I just thought, and I basically started collecting all these videos, and I would rehearse them. You know, like when I'm sure some kid, you have a tennis racket and you pretend that you're playing the guitar and stuff. Yeah. For me, no, I would stand there with a hairbrush going, I'm doing a really awful Billy Connelly impersonation. So for me, that was, as a kid, you know, as a teenager, that was what I'd love doing, you know. And then I never really thought about it as something I could do And then I did my first, I got asked, it was always something I kind of talked about, like, oh, I wouldn't mind doing it.
Yeah.
And when I was at uni, and I went to uni ridiculously late. I've done everything ridiculously late in my life. I was tattooed before I had sex. It was, yeah, everything's just gone arse about face. And I went to uni when I was 26. And while I was there, there was one night, there was a charity night on. They booked two professional comedians. One who I've stayed in touch with, a guy called Mike Haley, and they were great, but they needed an MC, and they said, "Oh, you could do this, Aidan." And I was like, "Okay," and it was awful. It was so bad. The venue was wrong. I was wrong. I'd never done it before. I'd sat there just terrified. I'd written all this stuff, preparing for people to heckle me, and no one heckled me. There was just silence. And so I had to pretend. It was awful. And I remember during the commercial break, during the break, commercial break, where did that come from? That was ego trying to step in there, wasn't it? During the break, I remember sitting in the cubicle in the toilet. I wasn't, I had my trousers up still, but I was so tired. I was so like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And two guys came in, and they were obviously having a chat as they were having a wee. And one guy goes, "Oh, it's good, isn't it?" Yeah. And the other guy goes, "Yeah, but the guy with the beard is shit." So I was so put off by that, I didn't go anywhere near it for 10 years.
Wow, okay.
I just thought, no, that's it. I haven't done it. I just didn't have the confidence to get on stage. And then I kind of pretty much buried everything. I mean, at uni, I did script writing, but I wasn't really writing anything. I wasn't really doing anything. And I ended up working in retail management. And I ended up as a manager of a garden centre. And
me too.
Oh, really? No way. Were you with any brand, or were you like a little independent? What were you?
It was home-based garden centres when they went into it properly. Yeah.
Ah, right. No, I started with an independent. I got hired by there was a guy whose daughter I went to uni with. And he had a huge independent garden centre. It was like 120,000 square feet. There was it made like 8 million a year. It was huge, and they only had about 80 staff.
Yeah,
and he needed a patsy. I didn't know this, but his general manager, who has been there for 30 odd years, was retiring. But eventually, he was going to end up selling the land to Asda, and he just needed someone to hold the fort. So his daughter had said, "Well, why didn't you hire Aidan? Aidan's got a brain." I had this interview with him, and I said, "This is insane." I know nothing. I still to this day, I know nothing about plants. If they're green, they're okay. That's it. And he hired me because he just needed someone. And all of a sudden, there I am, manager of this garden centre. And I was doing about 70 hours a week, driving my wife insane. And one day we're having dinner Sunday. I had a rare day off, and on a Sunday, cut a long story short, a friend of mine had produced this pamphlet, this sort of what's on guide for the comedian, and inside was the Jen Edwards course.
Yes.
So I did. So I signed up for it, and that was it. Changed my life completely, and that gave me the confidence to actually sort of get on stage and do stuff, and then it just all went from there. Really.
Yeah. A lot of comedians seem to talk about doing a comedy course as being, I think what you said there is about being a confidence booster. Do you find that you took other lessons from it, or is that that's the most important part for you?
No, I mean, confidence, yeah, absolute to begin with. But what it did teach me was structure and putting together a structured joke. It's one of the things that Jill does is like, you can say whatever you want to say, but you need to know what you're saying and how you're going to say it. And also, so it's not restricting you say, but it's like there's lots of little valuable lessons that she teaches. I mean, one which always stuck with me is that you're not, well, she doesn't say it like this, but this is my phraseology of it, is that you're not Frankie Boyle. But a lot of young people, young comedians think that they're Frankie straight away. And the problem is that Frankie Boyle can go and be Frankie Boyle, because if you're an audience watching Frankie Ball, you know that he's going to take you to certain stages, certain places, and you know that he has the ability to keep it in a certain area and then bring you safely back. Yeah. Whereas if you've got someone who's Billy Nobody, who stands on stage and goes, "Oh, you're," and says and everything, you're like, "Whoa, who the hell is this guy?" Do you know what I mean? There's that balance. So it gives you that confidence. Say, if you do it this way, put together this stuff, and then build on it from there. If that makes sense, and then you can actually make something of it. And so structure things and confidence, really, to be able to do it. And best thing I ever did. Really.
So I would describe your style, if you'll permit me, as storytelling, more than like observational. But I think when we were talking before, it seemed to me that you were saying the stories just happen to you, and you're just relating what happened verbatim almost. Would you say that's the sort of did comedy happen to you, or did you set out to be that style to start with?
Well, I think if you were to boil it down, and I don't want to sound I'm trying to phrase this sentence without sounding like a complete prick. But I think if you watch my stuff, you can see the influence of Billy Connelly, because Billy will tell a story. Billy is our first name. Mr. Connelly Sir Connelly will. He'll take you on, but he makes it about himself. He'll stuff he's heard, stories he's heard, and so I think that he can say certain things because it's all related to him. Yeah. So he's never punching down. He's never, he's punching. He's taking it on himself. Yeah. And for me, that kind of raconteur, being able to tell a good story, I like that type of comedy. Yeah, because it gives it a theme, gives it a structure. And sort of slight egotism as well. Is that I get to talk about me for an hour, and this is the but as I said to you, things happen, and you sort of you may be angry, maybe annoying, maybe frustrating, stuff will happen, but then you sort of think, hang on a second, how can I turn that into reality? How can I turn that into a show? Sometimes things will just happen word for word. And you just go, oh, that's great. Briefly, just demonstrate that I did it in the show, the bit. I had a conversation. I had a brief during lockdown when we moved up here to Middlesbrough. I had a job for 3 weeks in a dementia care home. And everyone was going, why did you move to Middlesbrough? It's so awful here. All right. And you're sort of like, well, no, surely it's not that bad. Everyone's going, no, it's terrible. Don't ever stay here. And I was going, yeah, it is bad. And then one woman said, and this is word for word, just said, oh, you're just living in the wrong part of town. You should live near me. And before I could reply to her, the woman sat next to her just went, here, wasn't a woman murdered and dumped in a wheelie bin near you? and then before I could even respond to that, the first woman said, no, that was 3 roads down. My place is fine. And you hear stuff like that. And then if you put it into the context of, fish out of water, there's me from Brighton, now in the wilds of Teesside and trying to blend in. And, this voice doesn't work, all these kind of combination things. And so for me, I think, that storytelling side of things is the things that make it stand up is because it's stories about me, and I'm trying to make them funny, or they are just funny. It's how you spin on it, really. But there is I do some regular. I don't know. People have said to me, "Oh, you don't really do stand up," and I'm like, "Well, it is because it's just basically telling stories about myself that are funny." But I suppose it is a more storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah.
To answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a kind of sweetness and a gentleness to it as well, that you're drawn in because you really want to hear what you have to say next.
Thank you. I mean that's a conscious decision as well, because I'm constantly aware of the fact that no one knows who the fuck I am. I'm not. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or whether it's what I'm comfortable with. But I've got no problem with people swearing. I swear like a trooper. I've got no problem with comedy that's contentious because, if it's funny, it's funny. But it's not my bag. Do you know what I mean? It's not. on stage, I don't feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
So I kind of, I'll tell a story that will, I'll edge stuff. There's a bit, for example, and this isn't remotely controversial. I did a show called The Vicar's Husband because for a while my wife was training to become vicar.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this line about my wife and the vicar trying to get me to go indoors to join in the church. Mm-hmm. And the vicar saying all these things, but my wife says, "Oh, stay because we're having a bacon sandwich afterward." And when I say, and then the line I goes, "Oh, and then I say, because that's the thing that's going to draw you into religion, isn't it? Bacon sandwich." And then I leave pause, and then I say, "It's not going to work with all faiths, though, is it?" Right? Now, all that is just referencing the fact that Jews and Muslims don't eat pork. Yeah. But you'd be amazed the reaction from people who don't know better, just sort of going, "Oh, the audience is, oh, is he pushing the boundaries? Oh, no, I'm just talking about bacon, But I think some people want I don't do controversy. I do nice stuff, nice stories that have a positive ending. And I kind of like that. Yeah. My first show was called 10 Films with My Dad. And that was a big hit.
Yeah.
And that was all about me and my dad not watching films and finally getting some kind of relationship because of the films. And two things stuck out in my mind that first year I did it.
Yeah. I
think by the second night I was doing the show and I had three huge guys in from Glasgow. I know because I was doing banter, so I knew things. They were like I am now, bald and just big, right? And they gave me a bit of crap at the beginning, and I kind of gave them banter, and they liked that.
Yeah.
And I did the show, and at the end, the three of them, as they were leaving, people, I always like to say goodbye to people, saying thank you for coming, Yeah. And I'm going to have the two guys went like that. The third guy just came up to me and went, "Good show." And then he was in pieces, And then the really amazing thing happened is that I think about the second or third week, this lady joined. She was at the back with her husband, with our father, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And she came up to me and she said, "We lost our mum 6 months ago, and tonight's the first night I'd heard my dad laugh."
Oh, wow. "And
thank you." And you're like, wow, Yeah. And I think, and I did the show over 5 years. I did it more than I should have done. But I've done over 500. I did 16 different countries I ended up doing it in. It's a good show, you know what I mean? And I think if you can hit people in the right way and, take them on a journey and give them a happy, I like making people cry. If at least 2 or 3 people aren't in tears at the end of it, I feel like I've failed.
Yeah. Well, I saw the show, 10 Films with My Dad, one of the iterations of it in, I think it was 2017. Got a little card here.
Oh my God, wow.
Remember that? Here it says, it's a quote, it says, 5-star show, and Chortle called it proper comic gold. It says, quoted on the card here.
Yeah, I think that in all subject of honesty, I think that proper comic gold Chortle review was actually from another show, but I'll put it on there anyway.
Well, it applies to you nonetheless.
You are very kind. I think you're allowed to do that when it comes to, if it's a good review, you can just.
Yeah, I mean, I always take those. Honestly, it's a great phrase, but I do kind of take them with a pinch of salt sometimes, because if you've said it's hilarious, and I just assume the quote was, "This guy is the furthest thing from hilarious," and they just cut that word.
Yeah, my favourite, and I've started doing it now, is that because I just don't care anymore. If I find funny bits or reviews, my favourite one for 10 Films, and when I'm going to do the director's cut next year, is my favourite review I've ever had was from The List, which is a bit pompous when it comes to reviews, and they gave it I think they gave it 2 or 3 stars, I can't remember. And the thing that stuck out from it was it was something like, "This show, or however good, does not stand out from the other father-based shows because," and this is the record, "his father isn't even dead."
Oh, Jesus.
And I remember I phoned up my dad and I said, "Look, is there any chance you could pop your clogs? Because this could get me an extra star, you know. Let's have some content here, Dad. You know, come on."
Yeah.
So when I'm doing I'm so sad. I've already created the poster for next year. And in the quotes, I've got the, you know, whatever, and the bottom one is "His father isn't even dead." The list.
I was about to say that's straight for the poster, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
His father's not dead.
Absolutely. But my favourite quote that I found for this year, and it was in a positive review, and it said, "Imagine that Mr. Tumble has stolen the voice of Richard Attenborough, right? and added a bit of Julian Clary Campness." And I was like, oh, that's me. I thought that's brilliant. I'll have that. That's great. So that's on the flyer now.
Oh my God, that's incredible. So, just on the subject of 10 films with my dad then, and you said that, oh, well, you know, I'm not well known. Well, as you say, you toured all these countries with that show for a number of years. So it must have been a bit of a phenomenon to have such a hit on your hands.
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I say I'm not known, I mean, obviously in certain, I think that I'm not quite cult.
That's another poster. No.
I mean,
not quite cult.
Sort of, yeah, that's another show. Is that a typo? Is that a typo? I think the in Edinburgh, I've been in something. Sometimes people go, I've tried to get bookings in places and clubs and stuff like that. People go, "Oh, you're an Edinburgh artist, aren't you?" And you're like, "No, I'm a comedian. I can come and do clubs." Yeah. And they go, "Yeah, but you do big stories." I go, "Yeah, but I can take the jokes that are in those stories and I can craft that into a pretty good 20 minutes, and people will laugh. Yeah. They will enjoy themselves, you know." And well, you know, and so I just don't get bookings and stuff. It's bizarre. So I think also as well, there's where is the end game for me? What do you gather as being successful as a comedian? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's difficult because you look at what other people are doing, and everyone does, and it doesn't matter what field you're in. There's always someone who you think, should I be there with that? What am I at their level? Am I doing? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so in comedy as well, because it's so spread out, there's so many different. I mean, there's thousands of comedians, and hundreds of which are out there gigging every night and are hugely successful and popular in clubs. Mm-hmm. No one necessarily knows who the hell they are, but you know, you do if you know comedy. Yeah. And then you've got the ones who are all on TV, and obviously they're the ones that you do get. And I think when you're kind of in the game, you're always judged by other people, what people know. Yes. So if you know, you tell people you're a comedian, it used to be that you'll get told a joke. Yep. You know, that used to be the stereotype. Oh, you could use this. And I've had that happen a lot as well. And you just nod and go, "Okay, thank you. Yeah. You clearly never see my stuff." But the moment I decided to do a Jim Davidson tribute act, you know, I'm on board. Then, but you get, have you gigged with this person? Is there as well. Mm-hmm. But the most common thing I've ever had is, would I have seen you on TV? Right. Now, that is kind of a loaded question, as in, well, if you had, would you remember me? You know, do I need to, you know, are you just saying, hang on a second, are you good enough to be on TV? Yeah. That is kind of thing. So, well, the only TV appearance I've ever made on really was on Songs of Praise. Because when I did the Vicar's Husband show, Songs of Praise wanted to do a section on Vicar's Husband. So as the producer told me, they just tucked in Vicar's Husband and up my name popped with my show. And they said, well, let's go and interview this guy and his wife, you know. And it was amazing. I had the Songs of Praise film crew plus a JB from JLS in our garden. And at one point, JB from JLS looks at my wife and says, "Is there anything we can do about saving Aidan from the dark side?" So somewhere in the BBC archive, there is me telling JB to fuck off. So this isn't Star Wars, dude. You know? So, however, when that happened, of course, as soon as it was broadcast on the poster now, as seen on BBC One. There you go. So, you know, people go, "Really? Would I have seen you on TV?" So now I can legitimately say to people, "Oh, you might have done." Yeah, you know. Yeah, why not? I've been on TV 3 times. It was the news every time, but it's, you know, it's fine. Certainly the great home base massacre of. Yeah, I thought you looked familiar. Yeah.
Just still on 10 films, when you're touring on an international level, as you were with that, do you find, I mean, even in Britain, do you find cultural differences impact the way your comedy is received?
You do feel a difference when you're in different places. But I think what I always try and do is, because I've been told I sound a bit posh. That may or may not, I don't know, it's just my voice, but I'm always conscious of just saying, because I don't want to sound judgmental, I don't want to sound snobby about any place or anything like that. Yeah. So I'm always positive about wherever I am.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, whenever you gig anywhere, I think it's important to do a little bit about where you are and just find a little bit out about somewhere local, and you can get some great lines. I remember once I did a gig, first time I ever did a gig in Chichester. Mm-hmm. And I said to the guy, I said, "Where's rough around here?" And the guy just went, "Portsmouth." Which I thought was just a brilliant line, And then once I was in New Haven, which is between Brighton and Eastbourne, it's quite run down. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, what's in New Haven? I've never been here before." And the person I asked just said, "Poverty." So you know what I mean. So it's about kind of a thing. So I don't think it matters where you go.
Yeah,
I think it matters on how you present yourself and how you present what you're doing. I'm always keeping in the back of my head that if people come and see me, that's lovely, but they've come to see me primarily because of the show description.
Yeah.
So whatever the show is about, that's the thing. So 10 films, I don't think you saw, I think I didn't use a screen when you saw it.
No.
But I used to, in the bigger shows when I was touring out, it was a 45 minutes with screen. And so I had a big Star Wars opening.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you had this scroll and it would just sort of say, "This is what the show is about." So it literally tells people, we're going to talk about films. It's okay. It's not an hour of therapy. It's going to be all right. You know what I mean? So that instantly lets people know what's going on.
Yeah.
In the news show, I'll do the same kind of thing. So I'll do a little bit of stuff. And so I think I talked to, when I was in Hastings, mm-hmm. I think I talked to the audience a little bit and sort of went, "Oh, this is lovely." And there was that backdrop that they put up that looked like someone's duvet cover.
Yes. The little seagulls on it.
Yeah. I said, it was really, I thought in front of someone's duvet cover before. Oh, okay. And it kind of instantly, if you can make people giggle in the beginning, just even a little laugh, they go, "Oh, okay, we're going to be all right."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they relax, and then literally you tell them what you're going to do. This is what this show is about. And then you just launch into it. And then it doesn't matter where you are. And I mean, most of the play, I mean, I did Dubai, yep. And that was absolutely fine. That was great. I did a reference about the traffic in Dubai. It's just awful.
Yeah.
I did the show in Istanbul. One of my favorite times doing it. I did it in one night. I did it at the Hard Rock Cafe, which sounds super glamorous, doesn't it? In Istanbul, on the western side, and then the next night I did the show on the eastern side. So I did it over 2 continents,
right?
Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just you just do the same thing. We just switch the jokes around to whatever. So I think if you just relate to where you are, try and make yourself as relatable as possible, and then maybe that's an easy way out. But my material is not super strong, as in go for the jugular, kind of swear at people and rip them apart. I think once people realise that, because sometimes you do get people who go, "Oh, you're going to take the piss out of me?" No. "Oh, go on, mate. Well, mate, Barry, you want to go on? You can rip them apart. Can you rip them apart?"
Oh,
no.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like that sort of thing at all.
No, if no, that's not what I'm here for. This is I'm doing a show. I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to take. Why would you want? What kind of person are you that you want to be insulted?
Yeah.
There are niche websites that will take care of that for
you. So from all your experience, have you developed for yourself any particular outlooks or philosophies on how what comedy does for you, or how it works for you, the right and wrong thing to do.
What, as in how it makes me feel at certain times, or?
Well, more sort of, I mean, it could be anything like, well, I know I made that mistake once, don't ever do that again. Or, if you do this, like for the example you just gave, in fact, is one where, just putting everyone at their ease from the outset might be considered a philosophy for how you would operate a show.
Oh yeah, there's. I see what you mean. There's a few little tricks. I mean, the balance of getting the audience interaction right.
Right.
Because sometimes you'll get someone who's a bit lively, and it could just be that they're not heckling you, they're just enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And then what you can do is lose the entire audience if you go too harsh on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because I'm quite a gentle comedian, as in what I talk about,
yeah.
If I suddenly sort of go, "Oi, you," shut up, and I launch in, and hopefully do it wittily,
yeah,
I could lose everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a balance. So it's about trying to get it the right thing for the right one. Sometimes you get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can overcorrect. I've misjudged over the years. You just pick up. Like when I was doing 10 films, I realized that when I'm talking about stuff, people feel, because it's a conversational tone, people believe it's a conversation, and they start chatting to them. So they'll talk about the film. So I'll be talking about things, and they go, "Have you seen that?" I don't know. And they'll start talking about the film. Now, for me, I'm on stage. All I can see is that.
Yeah.
And you can just see that going on there. So you don't see the 50 other people who are all smiling at you, completely unaware that they're talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you give them a bit of time to finish that part of the conversation so they rejoin you? Or do you try and do a bit of banter? Yeah. And hopefully do it in a nice way. I had this thing that I developed where I'll do it a lot. And I think I did it in Hastings, where they were having a bit of a chat, and I kind of, because it wasn't a huge, you know what I mean? There's only 20 people there. So if there's like 4 people out of that, that's quite a big chunk of people who are not in, is it going to ruin it for other people? Yeah. So I did this thing where I was going, "Hi guys, listen, sorry, I'm really sorry for disturbing you. I'm glad I've created an atmosphere where you feel comfortable enough just to chit chat between yourselves. Don't, and that's usually enough, I apparently in Edinburgh, the last time I was there, I did the half cut cabaret. Have you ever been to that one?
I've not been to that, no. Yeah.
There's a really good magician duo, Griffin and Jones, and they run the half cut cabaret. It's on the Sunday nights. It only runs for 3 Sundays, and the idea is that everyone's had a drink before they perform.
Yeah.
And I never drank before a gig before. Just a point of principle: always be sober, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, fuck it, I'm going long enough. I can anyway. So, I went, and I'm not the type of man, please don't think I am the kind of man who counts how many drinks he's had, I had this many, I'm not that kind of thing. But I did count, because I had 10 gin and tonics, and I was a little bit drunk, not massively, but enough. And I remember the act on before me was a burlesque act. It was this quite Rubenesque beauty from Jamaica who ended up in the tiniest of bikinis you can imagine, and it's in the voodoo rooms in the French Quarter, and there's like a steel bar that runs along the ceiling, and she grabbed the steel bar, swung her legs up on it, and twerked upside down. Right? And I was watching that, and I was just thinking, I have no idea how I'm going to follow this. It was just, how do you do that? But it went quite well. So by the time they invited me back every week, so the challenge was to drink more. So anyway, by the 3rd week, I don't remember doing this, but apparently, because I drank even more gin at the time. I had stopped in between, by the way, as well, I'll just point out. And I think I had about 15 gin and tonics. I was completely gone. And apparently what I did was there were some people talking, and while they wouldn't shut up, so I kept on things. So I ended up shouting at them. And in the end, I turned to I've just been told this. I turned to the audience. I put them all on hold, and I got them all to sing "Girl from Ipanema" while we were waiting for these people to fuck off. So I think that's probably the politest way I've ever got rid of an audience before. So I wish I had that on film. It's brilliant.
Oh man, I love the sound of that. Well, let's turn to the question that you posed then. How does comedy make you feel? But more importantly, the difference between comedy now from the inside, from the industry, from when you're watching live comedy, if indeed you still do watch comedy.
Well, when I'm doing it, when I'm on stage and it's flowing and it's going really well and everything is brilliant, I love it. It's absolutely glorious. And then a little bit afterwards, just for a short period afterwards, people saying, "I really enjoy it," is lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and then very quickly you kind of go, "Whoa," right? You know, you come down after it, and it's like, well, what's next? Watching it, if it's good, if it takes me away from working out the structure or working out where they're taking that joke, or if they take it somewhere I didn't expect, then I'll love it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's something that is completely, I love Nick Helm.
Yep.
Nick Helm, I saw when I went to Edinburgh. First time I went to Edinburgh was 2010, and I went to do 20 minutes with two other comics.
Yeah.
And I saw his show, Keep Hold of the Gold, and I saw it 3 times because it was just like nothing I'd ever seen. So full of energy, so completely, out there. And it was him, just incredible, incredible songs, incredible lyrics, that voice, good evening. And you're like, wow, and that was like that. In fact, I think it was the first show I saw in Edinburgh. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. So that for me was brilliant because I think if I'm watching stuff, it's impossible for me to watch comedy at home because I can't watch it with my wife because she'll go, well, why are they on TV? She's kind of got my back. And sometimes you watch stuff and you go, because I think that comedy's a live medium. And it's got to be something really special for it to transfer to work on video or on TV. Because when you're watching anything, you've got too many other distractions going on. You've got, should we have a cup of tea? Or all this business going on. The dog's going to fart, whatever. He needs to go out. There's all sorts of stuff. Should I have a shower now? But whatever's going on in your life. But you're watching it live. When you're watching it absolutely live, then it's the best thing ever. The most pain I've ever been in from laughter was watching Omid Jalali. I saw him at a gig in somewhere, I can't remember the venue, but it was in London, in a pub in London. And compare was awful. He was just horrific. I try to remember his name, but he's still gigging, this guy, and he was so bad, but knowingly bad. And people were trying to get him off, but he kept putting himself on because Omid was on. It was a packed out audience. Yeah. There was 200 odd people crammed into this room. Oh. So everyone was there. So he was just holding court, right? Anyway, so eventually he got booed off, right? And he was like, it's my gig. I can fucking stay on as long as I fucking want. All this shit, right? Eventually everyone just fucking got rid of him and he left. Yeah. The opening acts came on and took him off. So you imagine a room that is just so like, what the fuck is going on? And Omid just came on and just went, I'd like to, that was his name, Phil. Yes. I'd like to thank Phil for really setting up the room for me. Boom. Just everybody just fucking roared with laughter. And all I can remember is he did a bit about the French thinking they're hard because they've bombed small Philippine islands.
Jesus, what?
Which I know you'd think, but it was just about the French nuclearing a small Pacific atoll, And why is that? That's not fun. What? Me saying it to you now, you're going, huh? Seriously, one of the funniest things I've ever. Just so funny. I was in absolute pain watching this thing. It was just absolutely hilarious. So yes, it's changed me watching stuff.
Yeah.
Because I could watch some stuff and I think this would be better live.
Yeah.
I can understand why the audience are laughing so much at this because in a crowd thing, it's a completely different setup, Yeah. But I can watch stuff and go, yeah, and yeah. That's the diplomatic way of sort of going, why am I not on TV? It's not fair.
So talking about live audience there, then, how was your pandemic experience when comedy was closed for business?
Well, this is going to sound really awful, but the pandemic for me was really good. I didn't do anything during the pandemic.
Right.
Leading up to the pandemic, I was going to quit.
Right.
Just because the frustration of not getting anywhere. I can put a show together, and I'm quite, fingers crossed, I can put it in certain places and some people will come and see me. Mm-hmm. I'm blessed. That is wonderful, but that can happen, that I can do a show in a certain place. Some people come along and see me. That's really lovely, and I'm really happy that happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think that you have to get to a state, you've got dreams that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And you have to reevaluate where you're going to go. And it got to me that it felt like a slog. I'm not going to lie. I've sent emails, I've sent stuff to agents. I've never had a reply back from an agent. I've not one, not even a no thank you. Actually, I tell a lie. I've had one reply from one agent saying, not for us. That's great. Thank you for actually getting back to me.
Yeah.
That's the only reply in all the emails I've ever sent. Because you think, well, if you get an agent, then they might get you somewhere. Yeah. Mostly from my experience is that agents don't really do that. They're kind of admin people, but they don't, it depends what the agent is, how good they are.
Yeah.
And then I would send stuff off for gigs, club gigs, and send like what I've done. And I remember sending some stuff to one particular group of clubs, mm-hmm. saying, look, this is what I've done. I'm more than happy to come and do a middle slot. I'll even come and do a 10 minutes just so that you know that I can do this. And this is what I've done. And I got an email back saying, oh, but you've done all of this stuff. You're too experienced to do a middle. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll come and open or I'll close. I'll do what you want. Well, yeah, we would, but no one really knows you. You haven't got a big enough presence on Twitter.
Right.
And you're like,
yeah, how do you win? Yeah.
What's the fuck? Yeah, how do you win? And it gets to the stage where you're just like, well, what is the point? And, just before the pandemic, I was just like, no, I just don't see the point anymore. I had a lovely job. I found a day job. I was working as a support worker, looking after people with learning difficulties and other disabilities, and absolutely adore it. Best job I've ever had in my life. Some of the most funniest, loveliest people I've ever met. I remember one very quick example. One guy just really quick, look after this one guy, total capacity, so he understands what he's saying. Mm-hmm. And he would eat constantly, so you had to be very careful with him around food. And we took him shopping one day. And in the time it took me from finishing strapping in his wheelchair to getting the next person in, he'd eaten 4 of the 6 Mars bars he bought. I said, how the hell did you eat them that quickly? It was like 3 minutes, right? And he just looked at me and went, well, they're not as big as they used to be. And just like, oh, isn't that just a lovely line, So I was enjoying that, and I was really enjoying that. I was loving that, and I felt really good connection with that. And so I just thought, pandemic, yeah, I could do a podcast, I could do something, but really, what's the point? No one knows who I am. Who's going to tune in? Yeah.
I know the feeling.
However, this is where it all changes, my friend. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like, what is the purpose? What is the end goal to this? So it took some time to go through that. And then going through that, when everything was starting up again, I had a chance. I've been very lucky that Sweet Venues, John David Henshaw, who runs Sweet, basically sort of took me under his wing and said, come and do a Christmas show. There's a slot, we can do a Christmas show. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so I'll put together the 12 films of Christmas.
Yep.
And I did that in that, you remember like when there was a period, I think we had like 3 weeks in December where it was okay before everything went shut down again. Mm-hmm. So I had a chance to do it then. And I was just like, I really enjoy this because I'd had that break.
Yeah.
It was doing stuff I liked because it was a show, I think 10 people came out, if that, because everyone was still very conscious about going anywhere.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
And then we had an online audience as well. Mm-hmm. And I just really enjoyed it. And I just thought, yeah, I'm quite good at this. Yeah, it's silly to stop. And so you just think, well, okay, maybe I'm not going to do all those big things.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not going to get to do these shows. Would I be happy doing them anyway? I don't know. But what I am happy doing is doing a show.
Mm-hmm.
People, if they've come to see you do that show.
Yes.
So, yeah, why the hell wouldn't I do that? And so I that's what I do now. I think, right, put together a show, take it out for a little tour. Never going to make any huge amount of money. Never going to make any money. But fuck it. It's everyone's got to have a hobby, and I like to think mine is a semi-professional hobby. Mm. There we go. That sounded good, didn't it?
Yeah, nice. I like that.
But however, I just want to clarify that if any agents are listening, I am very available to do everywhere. Also, voiceovers.
Yeah, why not? Be in the next Pixar.
Well, I did one voice. I part of my manager's retail shop. I worked for Pets at Home for a while, and they said they wanted genuine Pets at Home employees to do the voices and the voiceover for their radio campaign that they were doing and the TV campaign. Mm-hmm. So they said, "Oh, Aidan, you've got to do that." And I went up to Soho to this recording studio. Did the proper voiceover voice. Pets at Home. The police were, I've got the voice. I know what I'm doing. And the people in the studio go, "Oh, you're brilliant. It's fantastic." And they had me do about 15 different thousand versions of it. We're getting to do all the script. And it was like, Pets at Home. And I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to have that. It's like, I'll have that as a little kind of recording, so I can maybe use that to get other voiceover work, and maybe that will lead into something. Yeah. And then the people at Pets at Home rejected it because apparently I didn't sound like I worked at Pets at Home. And I think that sums up the problem. Maybe people assume that I have an agent and that I have a hugely successful comedy life. Maybe they haven't bothered contacting me because they think, well, there's no point in contacting him. He's fiercely independent. No, more than open to anything.
So thus far in your semi-professional career, what's been sort of a crowning moment? It could be like a turning point that changed your mind about something, or just an instant when you thought, yeah, this is it for me.
Oh, well, there's been a few, because I've set myself little goals, mm-hmm. and I've been realistic in those goals. You've got the big dream, which is doing comedy full time, and wherever that be, would that be tour, whatever it is, whatever form that would take.
Yeah.
Being known enough to be able to go and do shows somewhere where people go, "Oh, let's go and see what he's doing this year."
Yeah.
Daniel Kitson, for example, he's got a name, and people go, "Oh, you don't see him anywhere else, but you'll go and see his show."
Yeah.
So little goals. I had one big goal for me was to compare at the Comedia in Brighton, at Comic Boom, which is the night that Jill Edwards runs. So that was the night that you would go and see when you start up doing her course, you go and see her night, and then and Sean Walsh was the compare when that started. So I've compared that night. That was a good night. That was like, well, actually doing it for the first time, because it took me a couple of years to get on the bill, just doing 5 minutes.
Right.
Walking out on the Comedia stage and just sort of going, "Oh," and then having 300 people just go, "Hello," back. You're like, "Whoa, where the fuck did you guys come from?" Yeah, it's just weird. You just don't think, you forget that interaction's going to happen. So doing that, comparing that with something. Usually the excitement. I mean, Edinburgh. There's moments. You have. I remember, I think it was my second year at Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. I was doing. Someone asked me if I could compare it like a gig, which is like random open people coming on doing spots.
Right.
And it was in the Counting House main room, which is, I don't know if you've been in. I think it's about 100, something like that. Maybe 70. It's a big room. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was 5 people in there.
Oh wow.
Right. And there was a girl, her boyfriend, and this girl's younger sister, right? And 2 other people. And I remember doing this. I remember getting them all up on stage so they could all have their Edinburgh moment.
Oh, nice.
So I got to hold the camera. We took photos of it. Everyone took photos of them all together so they could say that they've been on stage in Edinburgh. And you could see for them, that was wonderful moment.
Yeah.
You know, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that, you know, just little moments where you've touched someone's in a special way, not in a physical way. I clarify that.
Yeah.
But you know, something like that. Professionally wise, I think when I did Turkey, when I did Istanbul, when I did Dubai as well, but did Dubai twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I did obviously, as you know, in the show, I talk about it, but Ramesh did get me on stage with him.
Yep.
At the Apollo. So I suppose that was something.
I suppose so. Yeah.
I mean, he did give it the big build up. He did make it sound like I was from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But yeah, that was again. But when that happened, being on stage doing it, that was just wow. You know, that was like a once in a lifetime experience, and it was weird because afterwards, not that I didn't love doing that and amazing, but you sort of think, well, what's next? And the problem with comedy is there's no end to it. There's no end game, because once you've achieved something, what's next?
Yeah.
I remember I did a comedian, really, really good one-liner comedian called Mark Simmons.
Yep.
Have you seen him?
Yep.
Well, I saw it just after he'd done Mock the Week. He was on at Comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, mate, well done. Congratulations on doing Mock the Week. And he went, well, thanks. And I said, but what am I going to do now? You know, now everything else he does is compared to that. So now he's got to go and do it again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's just never ending. There's no when are you a comedian? When are you considered to be successful? Now, in terms of myself, that's something I fought with a balance of working it out. In terms of people who come see me in Edinburgh, they go, well, he is successful. He does Edinburgh. You know, people pay to go. I've paid to come and see you.
Yeah.
So you see what I mean? And that's a big thing. That's a wonderful thing that people do that. But so it's only comedians are just we're our own worst enemy, really. We could start a fight with ourselves in a room on our own.
I like that a lot. So, I mean, we've touched on it. Your new show, Tenacious. Where is it on? What time is it on? What's it all about?
Right. Well, it is basically about not quitting. It's about sort of not giving up on the dream. Yeah. And it's also about the fact that obviously I've mentioned him already, but the fact Ramesh and I pretty much started together. I think his second gig was like my ninth. And we used to go out and gig together, drive up to London because he was in Crawley, I was in Brighton. And I remember coming back in the early days. We did a gig where one of the professional comedians mentioned how much they got paid for a 20. Because no one tells you at first how much it is, unless you just don't know how much they get paid for. No one knows. Yeah. It's never changed. It's still the same amount of money. It's just ridiculous. And I remember driving back. We discovered this, and we were in silence driving back. And he probably did the maths quicker than me because he was a maths teacher. And I went, "We can't afford to do this." Yeah, because we were both working. He was a teacher. I was working in retail at the time. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Yeah, we can't afford to do this. This is ridiculous. Why are we bothering to do this?" And it always just cracks me up that there's me drunk with Ramesh. Do you know what I mean? He's now down to his last 7 television shows. So we do touch upon that. And yeah, so it's about some of the stuff that I've gone through trying to achieve whatever the hell it is I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And just getting to the point where I am now. And then just with sort of stories that are relatable to that, but true stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love telling a true story, and people that you've made some of that up, and I absolutely have not. It's literally presenting it obviously at the time something happens, it's quite traumatic.
Yeah. But
maybe the next day or week after or something after. Yeah. Do you remember the optician story?
Don't put me on the spot. No. Yeah.
No, I don't expect you, because you've watched. I don't expect you to remember everything.
One of the great joys, if I can call it that, is that I remember how the shows make me feel, but I don't remember any of the stories themselves. And that way, I can go and watch it again.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I don't want to tell the story because I want people to come see it in the show.
Yeah.
But the optician story, when something happened to me when I went to get some new glasses, and literally word for word, as it was happening, as soon as it finished, I just went, that's 5-7 minutes of stuff just just telling people what happened.
Yeah.
And you just, you just change like the but I didn't even have to change anything. I'm changing the circumstance, anything. So I just love telling true stories and just emphasizing that, because I think that really grounds it.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to think, what's my IP? What can I make it that's different from everybody else? I'm white, middle-aged, heterosexual. I don't have anything wrong with me. I don't have anything right with me. I'm just me, right? So I've got nothing that makes me different from 5 million other white guys. Yeah. What is special about me? Nothing, right? So all I can do is tell stories that are about me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Because people they come up with something that they can, from themselves, and that's brilliant, because we need stories from those points of view. Yeah. And you could argue we've had enough white middle-aged guys, straight guys telling us about their lives, and that's fine. That's okay. It's good that there's more choice. There really is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because quite frankly, I'd rather listen to the stuff that's got more choice than listen to another white guy. It's kind of done.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can think of doing is just telling true stories, and maybe and they're nice.
Yeah.
I want people to come to see my show, and they'll go away going, that was nice. And I think nice is a great word.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult thing to achieve a feeling of niceness. You can walk away from one of my shows going, I love that. That made me laugh. That was really lovely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, that no one could give me a higher compliment to just go, that was nice and lovely.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
That, and also potentially book me on Radio 4.
Yeah. So where and when can we see you?
I'm on at zoo venues, and in the high school version, it's called High School's Playground. It's in a school.
Yeah.
Zoo venues, and I am from the 5th to the 28th, and I'm at 7 p.m. And I'm extraordinarily good value for money.
I would agree with that for sure.
Thank you, sir.
So finally then, could you, Aidan Goatley, please summarise comedy in a nutshell?
Very recently, and I don't know whether he's been misquoted or not, but on the press, Rowan Atkinson has said that comedy's job is to offend. And okay, you could argue that maybe multimillionaire Rowan Atkinson might have a point of view that's relevant. However, I think that's wrong. I think comedy's job is to entertain.
Yeah.
And if you are entertained by offensiveness stuff, then that's fine. That's your bag.
Yeah.
If you are entertained by nice stuff, that's fine too. There's markets for everybody.
Yeah.
But to me, comedy is about having a lovely evening out, sharing some lovely jokes, having a good time, and that's it. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. It doesn't need to be preachy. It doesn't need to be the saviour. Oh, people telling it like it is, and all that fucking shit. I know I try and be nice, but I'll fucking rant about those cunts every day. Sorry, please cut with that. Actually, don't. Fuck it. Fuck it. Let's have a fight.
Yeah, why not? Thank you so much, Aidan. It's been absolute delight to talk to you again, and I'm so grateful for you coming on the episode.
Thank you. No, I absolutely loved it. It was very nice. Thank you very much for having me. It was absolutely lovely.